The execution of gangstalking requires the participation of many people. The only people that know that what you say is true are the people that are gonna deny it the most. I had everything. Well, I still do, but I was so much more than I am today. My life was steered in a completely distinct direction, and gangstalking took it away from me. And it's not cool, but I'm kind of glad because I have found a way to tell my story and tell it in such a way. Oh shit! And tell it in such a way that people do not automatically assume that I'm crazy. I was giving the foresight to articulate my experiences in such a way where I can say what I lived, and my demeanor itself will tell you that I am as sane as you can possibly be, that I am a coherent, intelligent man who has ambition, who loves his family and friends.
Here we go.
When there is a child and this child is constantly beat up by the dad, the moment that the dad lifts his hand, the child recoils because he knows that he's about to be beat up. So then whenever this child meets an adult and the adult does this, the kid will recoil because the kid is conditioned to recoil when he sees an adult lifting the hand, even though that wasn't the intention of the adult. That is true psychological conditioning. There is something that I mentioned in my previous video that is called the gang stalker grin or the Jupiter's delight, which is also known as a narcissistic smile. It is the facial expression that tells you, ha, in a mocking manner. Just like in my example with the conditioning, I was conditioned to interpret that as I'm fucking you on purpose. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you on purpose. And for that conditioning to happen, a lot of things had to be done purposely to mess with me by a lot of people. True psychological conditioning. First, gang stalking is called gang stalking because it is a gang of people ganging up on a single individual. And listen, this is something that is done to a lot of people. If you go on the internet, you can easily find people who talk about their experiences. However, their experiences are not told like I'm telling you mine. I have enough understanding of life and of psychological principle of manipulation that I ended up understanding everything that was happening to me because of it. I actually ended up learning more than I possibly ever imagined. Every person who gets gang stalked always mentions the headlights. Headlights are the first step of most gang stalking operations, like I call them. And what it entails is making you uncomfortable with headlights and then doing the gang stalker grin. True psychological conditioning. So that is how it all begins. I was in my car. I was relaxing, trying to stay awake. However, cars would point their headlights at mine, even if there was no parking spot for a car to point at me perpendicularly. This initial conditioning happened to me for a year, where I was in my car and literally a car would have the high beams on. It would point them at me while I was sitting in my car for 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. So then when this happens, the person with the headlights on begins driving. And of course, if someone is doing that to you, you want to see who it's doing it, right? And then it's a person whom you've never met before. And then it does the gang stalking grin. Like, ha ha. So then there's times where someone would be parked directly in front of me and turn their high beams on during the day, pointing straight into my eyes. And guess what? I looked at who was doing it, and guess what they did? So that happened for years. So then what that does, it serves two purposes. It ties in the grin with he's doing it on purpose. He's stalking me. And it sensitizes you to the headlights. So the headlights are done in many, many ways. I'm gonna explain to you the harassment of the headlight. The harassment of the headlights happens on the freeway, happens on the street, and there is also harassment with a turn signal. But let's start with the harassment of the headlight. It's incredibly simple, really. So the headlight. Aside from having the headlights on your face, they're also put on your rear view mirror while you're driving for extended periods of time. These are done during the day and the nighttime. So for weeks, I had people shining their headlights on my rear view mirrors for entire trips where I was actually getting followed. The headlights were coming from cars who were dangerously close to mine, and the cars literally follow you. There's cars that drive super close to you, and they stay next to you on the freeway, dangerously close, to make sure that you notice them. You look at them, and they do this. It's not a friendly sign. It's not. It is another version of this, of the gangstalking grid, but it's a fast hand wave. That we'll cover another time. You are literally followed where it invades your space, and you know you're getting followed because all of a sudden life feels different. You feel persecuted and you feel harassed because all of a sudden people are following you and they're shining their headlights on all your rearview mirrors, and any natural human being is gonna get upset. Like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this happening? It's only normal. So the headlight harassment has a lot of purposes, and the following isn't forever. It is only a couple of weeks, but it's done long enough so that whenever someone shines a headlight on your rearview mirror, it also pulls up the thought of, he's following me and he's doing it on purpose. It is all an operation of psychological conditioning. So what happens after that point is that by psychological habit, if you don't know what a psychological habit is, I recommend for you to check out my videos. I have the video that is called Psychological Habit. When you have a particular thought to a particular cue, for example, the child, when an adult who hits him raises his hand at the kid will make the assumption that the hand was raised in order to hit the child. So whenever the kid sees an adult raising the hand, the kid is gonna have the physiological reflex of recoiling and having a thought, oh, don't hit me. That is a psychological habit, a mental habit. The same thing can be done with facial expressions, with headlights, with hand waves. Like you saw, literally. You understand that clearly, right? I was conditioned to make the assumption that whoever shone their headlights on my rearview mirror was following me, because that happened to me for months. I've never had persecutory beliefs. I just haven't. It makes no sense. But now that you have an understanding of what a psychological habit is, I think you are understanding now how gang stalking works. So for a little bit, I believed that I was getting followed. This immediately wore off because of my understanding of psychological habits. So perpetrators or gang stalkers are the same thing. And let's call them perpetrators because I am so worn out by the word gang stalker that it's like, ugh, it's so annoying. So at this point, a headlight on my rear view mirror triggered the automatic thought. Ah! What was that? Triggered the automatic thought. They're following me. They're doing it on purpose. And by they, I mean strangers that I don't know who they are. But every target, every person who has had the same experience that I have refers to them as they. So the thing with this conditioning is that those thoughts are ingrained in your subconscious mind. So whether or not you're aware of it, your mind believes that you're getting followed whenever there is a headlight on your rearview mirror. Unless you know enough mind management where you can modify your subconscious mind, you will still have those thoughts. I learned how to work my subconscious mind by the 7th year because, oh yeah, I lived that for 7 years. It is a slow burning process. And at this point, I am already sensitized to the headlights. Well, my subconscious mind is. I am already moving on to the next phase, where is the phase where you are conditioned to interpreting grins and hand signals as perpetrator activity, as harassment. And for anyone to interpret those things as harassment, just like the kid has to be hit straight from an adult lifting his hand, I was harassed with hand signals, with gang stalking grins, and as you already know, already with headlights. So before I move on, I'm gonna tell you the harassment on the freeways. Aside from the headlights, aside from the following, cars were driving dangerously close to mine. Then they would cut me off the freeway. They would stay on the freeway right where I was about to exit and block my way. They would also be on the freeway with a turn signal pointing like they were gonna make a turn, like they were gonna exit, but never exit, and stay driving at a really, really slow pace in front of my car for entire trips. Entire trips. Drives of 15 minutes. And these people would literally go all the way until I got home. Until I got home. So you know that you're getting followed because you do get followed. And when I got home, I would exit the car and I would look back before entering and I would see the car there. The person that was driving the car would take the hand out and would go like this. Hand signal is beginning to be put into my mind. If I would happen to see the face of the person would just go. So also on the freeway, there were instances where a car would accelerate and get in front of me and slam the brakes and then take all the brakes and then slam them again, time and time and time again. It is actual harassment. Then there were times where I was chilling in my car and someone would crouch on a corner and move my car ever so slightly, but noticeable. I did see someone running away after I got out of my car. I saw the people. However, they were complete strangers. And this happened so much that I got to a point where I was like, ugh, I don't feel like getting out. So I stayed in my car and then I had my car swayed for hours on end. Now, moving on. Oh, before I forget. One time I was parking and I was eating in my car. And then this guy with a huge backpack crouched literally in front of my car. And I was like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And he didn't move. Hey! I pushed the horn. And this guy got up, pulled up his bag, and when he crouched down, he was wearing it. He zipped it up, he put on his bag, he looked at me, and he went. And he left. At this point, I knew enough about the operation, and I've read enough about it, that I knew exactly what was happening. I was supposed to believe that my car was bugged, but I knew that wasn't the case. Why? Because I am well-versed in manipulation. I am well-versed in perceptual changes.